Good evening. Welcome. Happy Monday. Happy Monday after the 4th of July. It's still July. I hope you guys are doing well tonight. Um, all right. We're live. I've only been off stream for a couple weeks, but it feels like it's been longer than that. There's something about 2 weeks that seems way too long. But sometimes I like to take the holiday and do my own thing creatively or whatever. So it is good to be back. Let me go ahead and check my. Yes, I hear myself. Do you guys hear me? Yeah, I'm sure you do hear me. Looks good and sounds good by Professor Geek, by our friend Big Al Presents. And I think that's it. Let's go ahead and welcome the chat. And we're going to talk about art again. And this is just general popular art. And I do say popular art because art as a whole, whether it's art history or art that spans all regions of the world, that's another flavor, that's another topic. So I'm really just going to be talking about examples that we see and experience in modern day entertainment. So I did say modern entertainment as the title goes. So let's go ahead and welcome everyone. I did see Go Team Ghost Planet first, but she posted earlier this afternoon, so the response is erased. We've got D. Welcome, D. First time I'm seeing you, and I'll get to your comment. We'll get to your comments soon. We've got my wonderful prof. I've got the Professor Geek T-shirt. Still a comfortable T-shirt in the heat of summer, so that's great. And then now I do see that Wi-Fi is gone. You know what? I probably should turn off my Wi-Fi on my phone. So just, I might do that. Just 1 second, and then I'll welcome the chat. 1 sec. All right. My phone is Wi-Fi-less. Wireless-less. No, that doesn't work. Yeah, of course it's wireless because it's a phone. So anyway, and I did see a wonderful message from my prof. Thank you, prof. I do it for you. So anyway, we've got Professor Geek calling me my beautiful shield maiden. Thank you. And then Big Al. Let's just go ahead and pop these comments up. Have an excellent show. I hope so. I think this should be pretty fun. It should be low key, no notes, just off the cuff. And of course, the chat is going to be dominating much of this stream. So it's up to you guys. We've got Gigawatt saying, is the cover on the right supposed to the cover on the thumbnail there? Is the cover on the right supposed to symbolize something, or is it just patterns for pattern's sake? I mean, I don't even think it's patterns, but we'll get to that. Midwit Productions, welcome. It sounds like, it looks like an anime productions. When I think productions, I actually think of music, so there you go, or something audio related. Dr. Y says, welcome, Dr. Y. The one on the right looks like someone was fooling around in Photoshop and their boss walked in and liked what they made. Have you guys ever used or heard of Canva, the website? Actually, I use Canva all the time for thumbnails and pictures, and I've got the Pro selection. I paid $12 a month for it. And it's kind of expensive, but I can do a lot of movie images and pictures. And I'm thinking like just $12 a month on Canva can render so a much better, superior book cover, to what we've had, which is kind of sad. I mean, Canva, you really want to work with digital photography and stuff like that and be, kind of specialize in that. But oh my gosh, it's just awful. And we will look at examples, by the way. We'll spend time tonight looking at examples. Zootopia is in. Good. And also Owen Lister is also in. Welcome. And there you are, Go Team. Ghost Forevermore. Wonderful. All right. So we'll just get right to the topic. I got to make a small announcement, very small, hopefully very, very short announcement before we get into the topic, but we should be getting into the topic in the next 10 minutes or within the 10 minutes, the first 10 minutes. So I did post on my community tab selection and just made the announcement that I have left Twitter. Now, my account is supposed to be there for 30 days until final deactivation. But I've made the decision to leave Twitter. Obviously, people have very obvious reasons for leaving Twitter, and I do share those obvious reasons. But I also have some reasons. The more I was thinking about leaving it, I was just kind of considering other things that I was like, yeah, this makes sense. This feels good. And I do want to actually probably talk about it. It's its own topic, really. I think I will talk about it on a pre-recorded video. So, one of those pre-recorded videos, maybe between 15 and 30 minutes, where I just kind of, spill my thoughts and share my thoughts, and then maybe I'll premiere it. If you guys want to chat with it live or something. I think that's a little bit better than just a streaming format or also a fixed video. But there are some reasons about Twitter that, yeah, I just use the word a little bit more nuanced. It took a little bit of deeper introspection to realize, oh, yeah, why have I been on Twitter? So it's pretty interesting. I have some interesting thoughts, and we'll talk about it. Maybe I'll record something this weekend and then premiere it Sunday or Monday. So be on the lookout for that. If you guys are thinking, oh, well, okay, she's off Twitter. I don't know how many of you guys are on Twitter. I have seen Dr. Y on Twitter. In fact, I think you've followed me recently. But people may be asking, well, why, if you're off Twitter, what's the next platform you're going to be on? Are you going to be on Getter or Gab or something like that? The Twitter alternative. And my answer is none. I just have, there are so many reasons, I'll extemporize on another video, but there are many reasons why I don't even need that kind of social media. People might argue saying, well, you're branding your music, you want to set up like a small music business with original music, and I'm like, yeah, but I think I'll still be fine marketing, even if I'm not even well known. Let's just put it bluntly, I waste time, not even doing anything that's fulfilling on Twitter. So that's a little bit of a tease, but there's a lot more to that in another video. So anyway, so YouTube is really the social media platform that I'm focusing all my energy on. So I've got this channel, Sound Engraver, and then I've got my artist channel, Sound Engraver Records. So you just add records, the word records, to Sound Engraver. It's my artist channel. And that will be strictly music, just music centric. And then this channel will be music, original sound experimentation, and commentary on art and all of that good stuff. But where was I going with this? Yeah, no other social media forms. I actually kind of feel pretty happy about it. Like I'm like, oh, yeah, I feel kind of light in a good way. So in any case, that is that. So you can reach me here. You can reach me on my artist channel. You can reach me on my website. You can reach me on my email. People can contact me. So my email's not going anywhere. This channel's not going anywhere. It's just no more Twitter, no more Facebook. Sorry, Professor. I will not be on Facebook. I actually prefer Twitter to Facebook. So my leaving Twitter does not mean I'm going to start going on Facebook. I'm not telling my professor that. I'm just saying that to you guys. So, oh, I'm sorry, Owen. I just missed it. Shame you're leaving Twitter. I recently uploaded some art based on Ephesians 6:11-17, the armor of God. Oh, well, Owen, a place to start that up. It's kind of a nuisance, but you can always start a personal website, even if it's a very basic website. Like I don't have a lot on my website. I keep it up just a little bit, like visit it, and I could do a lot more on it. I can make it a lot more accessible and inviting. Right now it's just there, so my music could be had and bought and all of that. But yeah, there's definitely a function. There's definitely a purpose for having your website or your own personal artist website, so people can find you in different ways. All right, let's welcome some others. I do see Daniel Heron. And Daniel it is Sound Engraver's stream. I would prefer a hi, at least, from Daniel Heron. Everyone wants to talk to the professor. I wonder why. All right. So, I'm playing with you. Final Fantasy is also in. You're never late. You always arrive precisely when you mean to. All right. So let's just talk about modern entertainment getting worse and worse and really what I like to call the dulling of the senses. I don't know if it's a phrase tossed around, but I really want to talk about this, really in particular with popular art, and that is well. Let me grab a drink of water. All right, here's that. So talking about modern entertainment, modern popular art getting worse and worse. Just in all around. I've talked about it a number of times on my channel, as you guys are all aware, the quality of writing for different things. Now we're seeing just in a vast amount of examples with visuals, visuals like very little saturation with some shots for TV series, especially like science fiction series or fantasy. Actually, not even fantasy, but science fantasy like Star Wars. It's like when you have this is just an example when you have science fiction or science fantasy in the way of something like Star Wars. Good night. You need to add a little saturation. You need to add a little contrast, and things are just getting duller and duller, and things are just getting a lot less defined. I think objects, I think colors, I think things like contrast, things that require some artistic dichotomies like light and dark and lines and things, more or less blurred in. I think all of that is just getting just we're coming to a point where we're not getting I think as a society we're not aware that the elites over in places like Hollywood or places, and by the way, I'm talking about America and I'm talking about Western uh, mass entertainment. I'm not talking about things like Korea or South America or whatever. South America is a continent. I'm really speaking of Western popular art. There's this movement, and I don't know if it's intentional or if it's planned, but there's this movement where it's like we're getting our senses. I'll put it bluntly, we're getting stupider, guys. Our senses are not as sharp as they probably were back in the 90s, 80s, 70s, 60s, going back to when animation was, coming. Well, animation's always been, since I think the 1930s and even before, but really taking a popular art term, a cultural wave in the 1930s with figures like Walt Disney. Well, the innovation is gone. The artistic endeavors, like people aren't exploring new styles of art anymore. People aren't experimenting, or if they are experimenting, it's kind of an inverse experimentation where it's like, oh, it's really hard to convey this or to display this in a beautiful, colorful, artistic way. Let's actually do the inverse and be kind of lazy and 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 it won't look as good. It won't look as sharp. It won't look as well defined, but that's okay. People will still watch it. People will still, look at it, with comic books, it's we only need to use maybe one color for our comic strip, like this ugly sea green and white, and then maybe a little red with someone's red hair. I mean, nauseating colors for some of these, comics that I have seen. I haven't read, but so all of this to say, uh, especially in the way of science fiction and superhero fiction and stuff like that, you gotta have something like contrast, color contrast, and saturation, and very, very fine lines, very, very fine points. So that is an example of I think this artistic, elitist push to dull the senses. So, I mean, one example that I try, I'm trying, guys, and I will get better at it. But just recent example is the Disney Star Wars Kenobi series, where there were so many dark scenes. And with something like Star Wars, I mean, really dark scenes. Like, I would listen to commentary, and there would be a bright picture of something, and then there would be a very dark picture of something, and I'd be washing dishes or something like that, and then I thought my phone went dark. I thought my phone went black as if it was switching off because the picture of some of the scenes in the Kenobi show, I couldn't see. I was like, "That is crazy dark. I can't see anything. Nothing's clear. Everything is really hard to make out. Why is that? Why is that?" No, our brains and our I mean, ever since we're toddlers and infants, our brains are processing and we're trying to receive a lot of visual input. And so what do? We identify with shapes, we identify with lines, we identify with colors. We respond to things like the color red for good reason, for warning, for like something is warning us in red letters or as a like a red stop sign, or maybe it's an expression of joy and love. We respond to those things. Ever since we were little babies, we respond to those things, and now it's getting less and less where colors are very much. I'm using colors right now, but we can talk about other things too. Colors are very much muted, muted, and objects are getting just less and less defined or even poorly defined. And this is causing us, really, our eyes and our senses, it's causing us to be dumber. It's causing us to be stupider. I hate to put it so bluntly, but we're kind of like mindlessly taking this in. It's like, oh, that's a book cover, I guess. Well, but it's a bad book cover. It's an ugly eyesore of a book cover, and we'll get to that soon. And why? I don't care about the Foundation TV series, but why in the world would they, from Apple TV or whatever, and then Amazon, why would they team up and sell the Asimov Foundation series with as as the TV series is playing? Why would they team up and promote the ugliest book series I've ever seen? Like, poor Asimov. Now, I know back in the day, science fiction had very muted colors, but they had objects. Some of the science fiction book covers were more like paintings, and that's not a recommendation I would have for modern day readers, or authors, writers. I wouldn't suggest having a painting for your book cover. I think that's a lot of information, but that was the style, back, because a lot of those books, a lot of not Amazon, sorry, a lot of Asimov's stories were actually in magazine format. Now, he has a magazine, there's a magazine named after him, but he would sell his short stories to a magazine. That was very common back then. In the 1930s, 40s, and 50s and 60s, it was so common to just get short stories of yours or even novellas published in a magazine format. And so the magazine would have an issue. So of course it would have like a different distinctive cover every time, every month. And that's fine. That was acceptable for its time. I don't recommend it now. What I recommend now is between 2 to 3 main colors, two of those colors should be contrasted colors. Like, okay, so you're going to have orange here and blue here. You really should have some good contrast, or red and blue, something with great contrast, particularly with things like science fiction. Maybe not so much with fantasy. I think you can get away with a little bit more color variance with fantasy. But something like science fiction, or, I mean, it's not my favorite, but something like horror, it should be stark, So there should be color contrast, and then there should be a central figure. You can't really have this ambiguous design, as we'll see in a minute, or as you saw with my thumbnail. So I really do want to just kind of bring it to the table that things are getting uglier, but also things are getting duller. Like, things are looking just darker all around. I mean, if you actually were given the chance to transport yourself to one of these worlds, or maybe the picture of the book cover, I would go nuts, because I want something that has high definition. And I'm not talking about like, bit rate or sample rate or frame rate. I'm not talking about that kind of high definition. I'm just talking about, oh, okay, I can see distance from here. I can perceive distance. I can perceive meaning. I can perceive what I need to perceive in the given moment. So anyway, let's talk amongst ourselves, in the chat, and then actually we'll look at some pictures, and then some. If I remember, I want to actually bring introduce a concept from the wonderful children's book, The Phantom Toll Booth. If you've never read Phantom Toll Booth, highly recommend it. It is a children's story, but I think as an adult you would enjoy it it's so clever. It's so imaginative and it's so clever. So I highly recommend I think it was a children's book. Maybe it was a kind of stylistic young adult book. It's great though. I'll just go ahead and put it in the chat. Phantom Toll Booth. Juicer? I can't remember. I can't even remember if Toll Booth is yeah, Toll Booth is Toll Booth is one word. Okay. Sometimes I forget. Is that one word? Is that two words? But we'll be talking about, hopefully, because I have it on my tab there, the Doldrums. And I think that's really important. So actually, you know what? Maybe I should maybe I'll start with the Doldrums for Phantom Toll Booth. And then you guys will see my meaning, hopefully, if I'm not making myself as clear. All right. So let me go ahead and share this. So Phantom Toll Booth is just a great story. And one of the first adventures, well, let me pull this up because I can't multitask. Share screen, Brave tab. And there we go. All right, do you see that? Hey, where'd I go? All right, can you guys hear me? All right. I stopped for a second. You guys all good? Just say the word, and then I'll continue. I look like something went weird on my YouTube. Okay, so you can hear me. Oh yes, we can still see and hear you. Okay, my YouTube actually was playing catch up, and then everything went black. Okay, so Phantom Toll Booth, a wonderful children's story. It's about this protagonist Milo who really he comes to know himself. It's like a kind of a thing for a young boy to. It's like a self-discovery. It's quite nice. It's just him going on these fantastical adventures, him meeting very curious, quirky characters, but every single character he meets, there's a reason for it. The character has a quirk, a trait that he understands, he learns to understand, and then and thereby understanding himself. It's awesome. Basically, he's a kid who understands that it's bad to be lazy and lethargic, and well, he's just kind of like a ho-hum kid. He starts out, I think, if I remember correctly, I think he starts out as this like kind of ho-hum, life doesn't really have much joy or much purpose or something like that. I mean, in a way you can perceive it as a kid. It's not nihilism, but he's just kind of like, mopey and stuff. And then he learns the value of rhyme and reason and the value of what is artistic, what is functional, what is very important to the human mind, as he's growing. I think he is coming of age, or maybe he is a boy. I can't remember. But anyway, the Doldrums. So I'm just going to read this description. It won't be long. I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So it says here, what happens? Oh, this is the purpose of the Doldrums for Milo as he's adventuring into this fantastical world. What happens when you don't pay attention to where you're going? When Milo in the Phantom Toll Booth stops paying attention, he ends up in the Doldrums. What are they? Read on to find out. Paying attention. Do you ever have trouble paying attention? Maybe you're in class and you realize you have no idea what the teacher just said. Maybe people around you are talking about something and you don't know what's going on because you weren't listening. In Chapter 2 of The Phantom Toll Booth by Norton Juster, I think that's how you pronounce his name, The main character Milo ends up in the Doldrums, where he is told that people who don't pay attention often get stuck in the Doldrums. So, what is this area? What's the atmosphere? Milo is driving along a peaceful road and he starts daydreaming. When he comes to a fork in the road, he isn't paying attention and takes a wrong turn. As Milo drives on and on, the sky grows gray and the birds grow quiet and everything starts to lose its color. The car moves slower and slower until it stops. Milo can't get it to move at all. When he wonders where he is, he hears a voice slowly wailing that he is in the doldrums. It's such a great chapter. And I can't read on. Wow, okay. That was fun. I had so much fun reading that. I gave it so much voice and all that. Yeah, and I didn't have Wi-Fi, so and I didn't have my phone near me. Okay, so how long was that? That's weird. I don't remember muting myself. Um, oh, that's so embarrassing. So guys, did you guys hear me read that audio the article? Or was that let's see. Let's see. 9:58. Yeah, several minutes. Oh, that stinks. Huh. So please tell me if you can still hear me because it doesn't look like I'm uh, without audio. Looks like my interface is there. It's got signal and all that. At least you had a screen to look at. But I don't really want to continue. Oh, we heard the first part, the first paragraph. That's so weird. Oh, it was such a good article too, and I exited out. So I know you hear me now. Interesting. Okay, so you guys heard me while I started reading, huh? All right. Well, kind of want to read it again. Do you guys mind if I like take two? Like I'm a musician. I don't mind doing a rehearsal. Okay. So it's good that you guys can still hear me now. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to get off YouTube. I'm going to get off YouTube because I'm just going to be on StreamYard. I'm actually going to be just doing the way Al does it. No YouTube streaming. That's really weird. Okay. I'm going to read it again, but I got to find it again. It's so important. So So sad. All right, so let's find that again. I did bookmark it, so that's good. And yeah, there we go. Oh, wait, no, don't do that. 1 second. Bookmarks. There we go. Prof had to tap my bedroom window. Hey, because I don't have my phone on. So. All right. Now we'll share it again as well. So, you know, I'm you know what I'm gonna do though? I'm gonna have my phone on, and just in case, I don't know what happened to the audio. You know, I wonder if it's a share screen thing. Let's try this. Sorry guys, I'm troubleshooting right now. Brave tab, and then Doldrum, and then let's see. I just wonder if like the microphone just kicked off or whatever. So don't mute StreamYard. Oh, so you saw the screen. You just didn't hear me go, oh. Okay. Whew. Well. Great. Okay. All right. So take 2. We're doing this again. Okay, guys. And then I'm gonna check. I'm gonna check audio too as well. All right. So. Okay. Okay. So the Doldrums. So going back to paying attention. Did you ever have trouble paying attention? Maybe you're in a class and you realize you had no idea what the teacher just said. Maybe people around you are talking about something and you don't know what's going on because you weren't listening. In chapter 2, in the Phantom Toll Booth by Norton Juster, the main character Milo ends up in the Doldrums, where he is told that people who don't pay attention often get stuck in the Doldrums. All right, we're good? Okay. So the atmosphere with the Doldrums is Milo is driving along a peaceful road and he starts daydreaming. When he comes to the fork in the road, he isn't paying attention and takes a wrong turn. As Milo drives on and the sky grows gray and the birds grow quiet and everything starts to lose its color, the car moves slower and slower until it stops. Milo can't get it to move at all. When he wonders where he is, he hears a voice slowly wailing that he is in the Doldrums. And what's in the Doldrums? For the inhabitants and the Doldrums are dozens of small creatures. They call themselves the Lethargarians, or Lethagarians, probably. They are hard to see because they are each the same color as whatever they are sitting on: trees, rocks, bushes, or the road. They inform Milo that thinking is against the law in the Doldrums, and so is laughing. When Milo asks what they do all day if they don't think, the Lethargarians, however you say their names, explain why they keep busy. They explain that they keep quite busy doing nothing. Their schedule is full of daydreaming, napping, dawdling, lingering, loitering, procrastinating, and lounging. They invite Milo to join them, and he considers it. Then he is interrupted by the watchdog, who's a wonderful character, who explains that to get out of the Doldrums, Milo must think. When Milo begins to think again, his car moves and he leaves the Doldrums. All right. So let's stop sharing. We good? We good this time? All right, I'm going to stop sharing and we should be fine. All right. So I think that's a wonderful depiction of not paying attention. You know, so in the Doldrums, you know, Milo, as I remember, he's driving in this, I think, a little red car to get through this fantasy land, and everything looks normal. You know, you got the plains and the mountains and the road, everything is sunny, the birds are singing. It's just like a nice country roadside. And I would love for you guys to comment, because I'm a little nervous. A little nervous that, because I don't have YouTube anymore. I'm not streaming on YouTube. At least you guys are, I can see the views, but I can't see you guys comment. But I'll just keep talking until I hear some confirmation. But the doldrums, there is kind of a contrast. Thank you, my prof. Appreciate that. There is kind of a contrast with the doldrums. From the sunny, maybe English countryside, where Milo is driving, things start getting, as he's daydreaming and not paying attention to where he's driving, things get grayer. The clouds get grayer. The landscape gets grayer, so it's probably not green or sunny anymore. The birds seem to go away. They're not singing as much. The cheer is gone. And then he comes upon this very gray, dormant, lifeless place called the doldrums, and the creatures that inhabit the doldrums are pretty much that they're morphing to whatever they're sitting on. So like a rock. So the creature will look like a rock if he is laying on a rock, lethargically, or a tree of a branch and stuff like that. And then, that they're pretty indignant with Milo, saying, "Well, we are busy. We're just busy doing nothing." And I think it's one of those reminders, like, yeah, if you are sloth-like, and if you're not doing anything, or if you're not paying attention, keeping your mind alert, and having that mental alacrity, then things morphing into the same, like this kind of, uh, what would I call this? Like things just blending in. There's a specific word I'm looking for, but I can't think about it right now, or come up with it. Things start blending. Like you start seeing the same color. You start seeing lines obliterated, and definition kind of blurred. So I think that's a really wonderful description and depiction, a fantastical depiction of what happens to you when you're not paying attention, when you're not thinking actively and engaging actively. Midwit Productions says, it changes from English countryside to the English city since they are all gray and depressing. Trust me, I'm English. I mean, yeah, I understand that there is some landmass in England and places like Wales and Scotland and Ireland, but I also understand that because it's a much smaller landmass, there's a lot more urban areas, and my heart goes out to the British. I want that English countryside to just stay intact, please. Being busy doing nothing is the most extreme oxymoron I've ever heard. Well, actually, that's the Phantom Toll Booth is just so delightful. It's so imaginative. I love that story. I should actually get a copy of that story. It's a really good book for anyone to have, and you can read it as a kid. It makes sense as a kid, and you can read it as an adult. It's just really wonderful. So yeah. Anyway, that was good. That was awesome. All right. Okay, so let's see. Might be a short stream, guys, because I don't have too much else to say besides that, and unless I think of other examples. But I'm going to share the screen again, and let's see if we can get this up, and let's see if my mic doesn't. I don't know. Like I feel slightly senile. Like, did I mute myself and not realize it? But you said the audio cut it out. It cut out as I was reading. So, you know what? I bet StreamYard did. Yeah. Anyway, so let's go ahead and do some compare and contrast. By the way, Midwit Productions, welcome. I think this is the first time I've seen you. You are more than welcome to this community. We're a community of people who love popular art, but we're kind of objective we're objective when it comes to the decline, the artistic decline of certain media and certain entertainment. All right, and even Big Al, Perpetual Sunshine Big Al. Like I heard your review. I listened to your review from start to finish, Big Al, of Thor, London, Love and Thunder, or as you like to say, Love and Blunder. And yeah, I mean, even Big Al, it can't. It's affecting him. No, just kidding. No, I don't wanna be cynical. I'm not cynical, but I also I do think that art is getting worse. So, let's go ahead and share some screens. Oh, I came for the Filoni slander, and I stayed for the Filoni slander. I tell you what, man. Now I for about 2 years, since you're new, for about 2 years, I have talked about Star Wars, Disney Star Wars, and I've been very critical of the trajectory of Disney Star Wars, and not having seen anything Disney Star Wars related since the Siege of Mandalore. Siege of Mandalore was it for me. I'm like, no, I don't need to watch this anymore. Um, and I know people say it's a good arc, but it's not. Anyway, I'm only saying that to you because you're new, and but now I try not to. Again, it's like with Kathleen Kennedy. I don't want to. I don't want to directly, you know, promote bad, negative insults directly at the person, at Kathleen Kennedy or at Dave Filoni, because I know it could actually get an extreme. You could go to the extreme end and actually be belligerent against the person, and I'm not about that. I am, though, not belligerent, but I am very forward when it comes to people saying um, that something is good when the opposite is true, even if it's the artists themselves promoting it. It's like, no, you got to have a little bit of artistic standards and intellectual honesty, as people say, with that kind of stuff. The cynicism. No, we don't want cynicism, but we want objectivity. I am still Sunny, really missing Miss Marvel. LOL. Is it not running? Or oh, really? I'm sorry. Really enjoying Miss Marvel. LOL. Well, I mean, I'm not watching it, but I did see a few episodes of Girl Meets World. I remember because I loved the show. I grew up with the show Boy Meets World, and I'm like, okay, let's see what this Girl Meets World. I don't think it's actually pretty witty. The writing is pretty witty. Is it Ben Savage? Is that or is it Adam Savage? It's one of the Savage brothers. I forgot which one. And then oh, what's her name? Who played Topanga Lawrence? Oh, what's her name? She's great. She's great too. But I haven't pursued watching that. I just don't watch Disney Plus at all. Anyway, let's take a look at some comments. I wish fantasy would go back to being more like the Neverending Story, Dark Crystal, and Labyrinth. Those three films are a great example of fantasy. It's got a look, you know. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's got that look. Ben Savage. Okay, it's Ben Savage. Adam was it Adam? Wait, Adam. Wait, what is it? Adam Savage, the MythBusters guy? Oh, am I? Who's the other Savage brother? Is it Kevin Savage? I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, she was great. Danielle, Frischel? I can't remember. The objectivity leads to cynicism in this pop cultural climate. Well, I mean, the antidote for that is you you read and write the good stuff, and you watch the good stuff. Fred Savage, thanks, Gigawatt. Appreciate it. All right, so let's go ahead and compare and contrast. Let's do this for a little bit, and I'll be sure my audio's on. uh, honestly, guys, I'm gonna be real. If it's not YouTube, it's probably my computer because my computer. I'm one of those people. This is such a sidebar, but I'm one of those people. I will drive the car until the wheels fall off. I'm the same way with computers, and I just really can't afford a new computer, even a cheap new computer. And I've loved this computer. It's just been so awesome, but I know it's going. Like, I know it's more than it's past the retirement point. It's like it's on its deathbed. Like, I feel it, and so maybe it's my computer as well. So okay, we will compare and contrast, but I like the old school fantasy art aesthetic. Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings films are a shining example of the art style being done in film. Yeah, and the thing is, so I didn't really care about the Hobbit films. I love the story of the Hobbit. There was something like I love color contrast, and I love things a little bit more saturated. I like a lot things that really pop out. And I did think that whoever did the visuals for The Hobbit, it did look a little off. I wish they like from I've only seen it once. I never saw the third film of that Hobbit trilogy. I didn't bother watching it, but I did see the first two movies, and there were some scenes that were just way too colorful, if you know what I mean. But yeah, but his Lord of the Rings, it did well. Oh, and Lister says most fantasy these days are all just Game of Thrones wannabes now, lame versions of Tolkien. And speaking of lame versions of Tolkien, do not watch the Amazon Prime series. Speaking of which, even like you don't even have to go on a trailer. You know, you don't have to go to a trailer or whatever they're posting or marketing for the new show, the Second Age show, Rings of Power. Just go on Amazon because you're gonna go on Amazon to buy something, and then they'll broadcast. There'll be a banner, like a moving motion banner to advertise the Rings of Power. And Numenor looks awful. Like Numenor needs okay. Remember, the Third Age is kind of the Third Age is not even an extension of the Second Age. The Second Age was much more beautiful, much grander, much had a lot more artistic, cultural loftiness than the Third Age. But Gondor in the Third Age was still beautiful. Edoras was still beautiful. And only places like Lothlorien and Rivendell, they were the Second Age tier, or maybe the First Age tier, depending. So Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, that looked like the Third Age for what film could do at that time, for like live action. I'm not talking about animation, just live action. Uh, it was beautiful. It looked like the Third Age. It was really well done. I mean, give or take, it could have looked a little bit different, but it got the feel. You know, Peter Jackson got the feel of the Lord of the Rings just superbly. The Second Age is supposed to be more beautiful than the Third Age. Likewise, the First Age is supposed to be the most magnificent of all. And then you know, the days previous to those ages was supposed to be like paradise on earth or heaven on earth. And so over the passage of time, it gets less and less to where the Fourth Age looks like modern day, you know, modern day English countryside without the industry, you know, without the industrial revolution and all that. But like Hobbiton, kind of like that. Now, Amazon's Rings of Power. If you look at the banner that they're advertising, Numenor looks awful. It's supposed to be Numenor. I think it's supposed to be Numenor. Numenor is supposed to be a golden star of a land. Like it's actually the shape of a star, I think, and it's supposed to be just so beautiful to behold, so magnificent. It's the best place for the world of men. And I was looking at the little buildings in the distance, and I was like, this looks so computerized. Now with Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, they not Rings of Power, no, with Peter Jackson, they worked with miniatures, and those miniatures really added the depth and the scope and the beauty of those locations. Amazon's not doing that, even though, well, maybe they are, but it's not looking like it, just from what I can see. Anyway, that was a sidebar. Let's see. Yeah, yeah. So Midwit Productions, you're saying shame that it's all devolved to either realism or pauldron core. I don't know what that is, but realism. You're right about that. Art imitates life, and life feeds art. Yes, I'm going to be talking about bad art soon. Not in a stream, probably in a pre-recording. Because there are people out there who don't believe bad art exists, and I gotta say why it does. And why you should avoid it. Oh, actually, really not why you should avoid bad art, but just why it's so important to have good art. D. Pensac, welcome. Hobbit films were shot at 48 frames per second and combined with color grading made for odd visuals. Yeah, the grading was off. Like the grading for the original films, they were very selective about it, and it worked. Like the Grey Havens looked very different from Hobbiton, and it looked different from Rivendell, and it looked different from Edoras. Well, Edoras was more like a live location anyway. It just looked good. It was good all around. Good, Owen. Neither am I. Yeah, it looks bad. It just does not look like anything Middle Earth. All right. Um, Paul Droncourt's things like World of. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm sorry not if I'm not reading that correctly. Is things like World of Warcraft, where it's so extreme and cartoony it becomes a parody in itself. Interesting. Interesting. All right. You know, since that little interruption, that interim, that dramatic interim, I feel like I've been streaming for more than an hour, but we're not even hitting the hour mark. So before we get back into chat, let's go ahead and do some compare and contrast because I think this should be fun. Let's pile on the crud, the artistic crud that we're seeing. So let me go ahead and share. And by the way, I'm using the Asimov Foundation series right now because one, I'm reading the second book of the trilogy, which I'm enjoying. And then two, it's right now it's the only example I can think of that's pretty concrete. All right, there we go. All right, are we good? Are we good? All right, looks good to me. All right, so we'll start with the first one. The first one that we compared to. So this one right here, you can see it in the thumbnail as well. I do apologize. It's kind of on the small side, but you can. The colors are loud enough where it pops out, which is great. So I love this for a number of reasons. The main thing is it's bright. It's got great color contrast between. It's not my favorite choice between the red and the orange. I think orange should go with purple or blue. Red should go with blue. But this really works with the central figure here, or it should be in the center, but that's where I would mark it down. But Harry Seldon in the vault here, it's a beautiful contrast with the black, the purple, gray, silver, and the blue. I mean, that works. The font is big. You got Asimov and nice big font. Even Foundation, even though it's smaller font, it's still readable because of the orange. It's really important. I would, if it were me, I probably would uh I probably would have it be a darker not a darker red, a louder red and darker in tone, maybe almost like a dark carnation with the orange. I think that would make the letters pop out even more. Maybe a even brighter orange for that. But it really works well with the blue, the purple, gray, and the black with a Harry Seldon there. Now, I would say where I mark it down a little bit is this figure in the window here. It needs to be bigger and it needs to be in the center. That's where I would mark it down. Like it needs to be just right symmetrically in the center. It's like, oh, there's a man inside this kind of time capsule. What does this mean? This kind of holographic recording. What does this mean? The way it being off a little bit and then also smaller doesn't really work with me. This isn't my favorite, by the way. This isn't my favorite cover of the Asimov Foundation trilogy. But the reason why I chose it is actually it's the cover that I have, the physical copy, and then also what was the other reason? Oh, I just like the color. Like the orange and blue is just great. Contrast that with this ugly eyesore right here. Like, what is this? First of all, let's talk about color. I don't mind black. I don't mind white. They're contrasting colors. Perfect. What is this? Very hard to make out. Is that orange? Is that brown? Now, here's the thing. As you could see, I'm an adult female. I identify myself as a woman, but even if I didn't, I am a woman. Now, with women, we actually can see color variance a lot better than men. Men take in shapes, take in objects, spatial distance, lines, and color contrast. It's actually been philosophically, not philosophically, I think it's psychologically, it's been scientifically explored that men actually look at things better where it's got sharper color, like loud reds, loud blues, and stuff like that. Like because traditionally speaking, men were the hunters and gatherers. They needed to see things marked, like as far as land exploration, hunting, game, stuff like that. And women needed to see things like a discoloration of a baby's face, for instance, like, oh, you're a shade of green. You're not pink. You're not olive skin. You're not white. Like when you see the slight coloration, when you look pale, women can pick that out. Can pick out color variances a lot better. Um, and I say that because I I can make out that this is kind of an orange, but it's kind of a brown. I don't know. I guess I would know if I saw it physically. But okay, so that's the color. The color is awful. It really should have just been black and white. Like to improve this book cover, take out that orange brown thing. Now this is I can't even see it even in the other thing too is at a distance, I can't even see what this kind of design is. It's like you got this kind of spherical, lines, geometry here going. But then what is this nebulous orange stuff? Like, what is it supposed to represent? Design wise, it's awful because you don't have any focal points of that visual. You don't have any art, visual things that pop out. It would have been much better. Like an improvement would be okay. I'm going to be talking about, and the foundation is about an empire on the decline and the catastrophic ramifications of millions of worlds. So how can I depict millions of worlds? Well, you can depict that in a galaxy, like a high contrast galaxy. You could do that. It's a galactic empire, so it is a galaxy. It's nothing more than that, even though it's pretty big. Or you could do star systems. Have a starscape map, like have a holographic map. That's modern. It doesn't have to be old school sci-fi, but it's so absurd that it's like this nebulous pattern. Like what is that supposed to represent? Is that supposed to represent star systems? Is it supposed to represent a computational system? Is it supposed to represent delegates and delegations and administrations? Like what is it supposed to represent? There's nothing. And then worst of all is you've got this tiny little figure here in the center, and I think that's supposed to be Selden. I think that's supposed to be Harry Selden. I can't even distinguish if it's a man or something. I don't even know what that figure is supposed to be. That is awful. The other thing too is, again, I don't mind the white with the black, but the Asimov Foundation text, first of all, needs to be much bigger. Foundation, come on. It's so hip to, not have anything capitalized, No, capitalize the F for the word foundation or have it all caps. Have it all caps. Okay? It's so hipster to leave everything lowercase. It's like it's kind of hipster now to not punctuate anything. Like I don't punctuate my sentences. I don't need to. No, have things in capital letters, or at least the first letter of the word, and have it bigger and have it in bold. I can barely make it. Like I have good eyes, so the visually impaired would actually have a hard time making out the very thin white lines against this ugly orange brown design, whatever it's supposed to be. We can't even make out what the design is. That is awful. So let's find something much better. So Owen does say, why not a crumbling planet? Well, actually, the planets don't crumble, not in the story. They fall to barbarism and anarchy, but it's not. I guess it's supposed to like depict the symbolically depict the. It could symbolically depict the decline of the empire, or also networking in regions and kingdoms. It's just weird. It's just terrible. It's terrible. Let's find something else. Let's find. Let's do. Actually, let me go ahead and do second foundation. That's the. What book is that? Is that the third book? All right, let's see what that is. All right. So take a look at this. Just an aside. It says right here, the Foundation book series, book 13. I'm actually not sure what they mean by book 13. It could be. I think I know what it means because every book of the trilogy is actually separated. Like there are 5 parts in the first book. But take a look at that beautiful cover, like regardless of what book it is. You've got this beautiful contrast with this beautiful violet, this blue violet against this darker orange. That's gorgeous. And then you've got this kind of yellow with white outline. So you've got like a white outline with a dark purple. That's awesome. And then that mirrors these rays here of this the space shuttle or thing. And I haven't it's been 10 years since I've read the second foundation, so I'm not exactly sure what this may mean. But this is kind of a classic sci-fi look where you have a central figure, like with a human person, a person with a space shuttle or something. And then you've got a cityscape in the background. Now, again, I don't really, for modern day readers, I don't recommend a large cityscape for a book cover. You want it pretty simple. You want it just to pop out. But I love how this cityscape is defined by the kind of the white light against the black structures and the purple outlines and stuff. It's white, purple, and black. And then you've got red here, a little bit of yellow. That's not more than 5 colors that help the image pop out. Contrast that with this. What is this supposed to be? First of all, let me just say, I didn't say it for the previous one. I absolutely loathe the Apple TV Plus stamp. Like I can't stand it when TV series and platforms say, "Hey, now a new series at on Amazon or Apple TV." It's like I don't care about that. Let me just give me the book cover. But what kind of thing is this? Like you've got this kind of like, ooh, I've got this kind of burgundy, magenta, swirly, computational lines and patterns and stuff like that. Then I've got like this diamond with these spheres, and it's all symmetrical and stuff. It's all science fiction looking. So you got the thin, awful thin white text here, and then look how awful that is. So it's like first it was foundation. Then it was second foundation. So the word second is in smaller text. That's fine. I don't mind it being smaller. What I don't like is that this is in capital, all caps, and then foundation is in all lowercase letters. It's like, ooh, let's be hipster and edgy. It looks dumb. It looks dumb. But even more important than this, looking at it from a distance, if you were to like hold out this book to a person in the distance, if they didn't read the title, if they couldn't read the title or didn't know what the book was, it's very easy to mistake this for a piece of fantasy. Why? Well, this kind of looks like satin or cloak. It's like red satin or cloak. Because it's red and it kind of looks like satin or silk. Like a cloak or cloth, I meant to say. Because it's red and got that wine color, it's a wine color for goodness sake. I have a dress in my closet that's of that color. It could be like a romance novel. So if you held it up without the white design probably, but if you held up and people saw the red, they wouldn't even make out the red from a distance probably. Like, oh, is that a romance novel or is that a fantasy? Because there's nothing to distinguish this design from a fantasy genre, a fantasy book. So yeah, I don't like that at all. Maybe a couple more examples. I see it from a much greater distance, even with the share screen. Now that I'm back on StreamYard, but it looks like a wine colored wine red silk. Like, oh, a symbol. It's like it could be a mystery. It could be a romance mystery. Anyway, all right, maybe 1 or 2 more examples. Let's find something else. How about now? I will say, old school science fiction, the art would be a little bit more muted. So you do have color contrast with the sunset here, the red sun, and then like the blue shade. That's kind of cool. That's really nice. It is a little muddy. Now, this was the style back then. This just was the way to do it, and I'm kind of glad. I like the old school sci-fi art. Not really recommended now. It's it's too hard to make out, oh, is that a city? Yeah, I can see that's a city. I can see that that's like a terminal of some kind. That's a spaceship. That's a bigger structure. You can see it. Now, the one thing it does have, it shows the reader you're about to read an old classic sci-fi. That's important. If it does that, then you've nailed it. Okay. What else? Yeah, you got that old look here. The foundation. That's really confusing. But here's the thing: you can see. So this book on the left, you see that it's a galaxy. And then you see a young man behind an old man, which that's probably Harry Seldon. And I'm not sure what the man is supposed to be. He might be symbolic of the emperor. Might be a trader, not traitor, but trader, like a merchant. And then second foundation, you got a space shuttle with like a planet and stuff like that. So pretty good stuff. Again, it's old. That's an older style that people don't do now, and that's fine. You don't need to do that now. All right. One more. Foundation's Edge. Let's find Foundation's Edge. That was the last book I read. So if you've been on my other streams, I've only read 4 of the 7 books. So Foundation Edge, this is an old style. Like, it kind of looks like it looks like a science fiction. No, it looks like a science textbook. So I do like that the letters are huge. I love that. I actually like how that name is formatted, and then you've got Foundation Edge and the 4th novel of the Foundation series and stuff. And so that's good. It's got a blue, and it's got like the galaxy look. So okay, now we're talking about star systems and planets and stuff like that. Also, that's I feel like there's a better image of that one. This one, yeah, that looks great. It's a little muted. It's got a feminine look because you've got a feminine female figure here. I know who this character is. She's really great. She's actually a little bit more olive-skinned in my mind, but she's a village woman. She's a very mysterious character. She's got a very mysterious history and ability, but it's beautiful. It's almost like Forbidden Planet. It's got that beautiful tone, very feminine, and it's gorgeous. Contrast that. Okay, you want to contrast that with this. Like, need I say more? That is so ugly. What is this supposed to be, like a terrain? Like, oh, this is a topographical mapping. Well, first of all, topographical mappings have more color than this ugly, nondescript yellow. It's so ugly. And there's no if you're gonna do yellow, put it against black, like in a neon way. So awful. And then of course there's ugly white text and all that. And then foundation, all lowercase, foundations, and then edge, which is much smaller. They shouldn't have done it that small. I don't mind it being smaller, but they shouldn't have done it that small. But edge in all caps. So I rest my case. Those are the examples. It's just let me go ahead and stop sharing. All right, so I rest my case. So you guys, I mean, maybe it doesn't like make too much of a difference to you. It makes a huge difference to me. Like, I'm not even a visual person. I'm an audio person. I'm into music. I'm into sound. So contrast and dichotomies in sound and music are very, very important to me. But the visual stimulus, it's got to be good. And so the Foundation book series, the new one that Amazon is promoting with the TV series, it's ugly. It's ugly. It's so ugly. And worse than ugly, it's nondescript. And that's an example of the dulling of our senses. We're consuming really without thinking, like, that book cover doesn't work. No, I'm not saying that's everyone, but why was that cover, those book covers, why was that greenlit? Why was that approved? That's got to be the ugliest design for book covers I've ever seen. And it doesn't distinguish, like, if you put it at a distance, like I said before, it doesn't distinguish it from fantasy. It doesn't distinguish it from like a contemporary computer thriller, like a technological thriller. It does not spell Asimov. It does not display Asimov. Now, again, that's just one example. I'm using Asimov as the example for the night, but just kind of be on the lookout for that kind of dulling of the senses. Why are we letting really rich people, really with companies with a lot of assets and a lot of wealth, why are we letting them produce stuff that is worse than an artist in someone's basement, living in someone's basement, rendering much better art than what we see from the highbrow Amazon crowd or Disney or whatever? It's like, but I think it's intentional. See, they have all this technology. They have the CPU processing of wonderful stuff. They have the capacity for wonderful little nuances to make animation great, to make live action great, but they don't. They don't. And it's really sad. So anyway, that is the dulling of the senses. So let's go ahead and get back to the chat. All right. Computer was okay. Oh yeah, okay. Thank you, Gigawatt. You're saying my point. The sad thing is they spent billions on the show and it still doesn't look good. That's the thing. It's like Peter Jackson probably spent way less now. Well, no, he would have had to. Like, I'm sure most of the money went through the producers getting the actors, like people like Hugo Weaving, uh, Viggo Mortensen. Was he that? No, I don't think he was that well known. Sean Bean was well known. Ian McKellen, I'm sure, was well known. Oh, Christopher Lee, the biggest one of all. Okay, so I think I know a lot of money went into that. Now I know a lot of money went into investing in the art studios. It went into the art studios, but there was such passion and love for their craft that it just blossomed. So I'm not saying they didn't spend a lot of money. I'm not saying Peter Jackson didn't spend a lot of money on that project, but not on the scale. Like it kind of saddens me. I'm not against a lot of money, by the way. I'm not against high affluence, wealth. I'm not against people with a lot of assets. What I am against is the waste. There's something very there's a little bit of depravity that goes into seeing money wasted. If money serves as a function to produce a good thing, I don't care how much is spent. If it produces a good thing, artistically, economically, whatever the case is. But when it's wasted, when there are billions wasted on a mediocre project, when a man making 48K a year can produce something better, it's like, come on, guys. It's so sad. All right. A little bit of, what am I trying to say? A little bit of exchange between you guys. Midwit says, this is why I'd want a proper painted cover that conveys exactly what the book is about, even though it'd be a mess considering. Yeah, I mean, as long as the image pops out and as long as it looks clean. So even if it is a painted cover, it would have to be really specific. But painted covers aren't a common thing anymore, and I don't think it needs to be very much. I think you can render something very beautiful, very effective in the digital scape now. I think painted covers were really back when people were selling magazines left and right with these stories. There's a lot of Asimov that I don't know. I only know Dirk Gently. No, is that part of the robot series? After the Foundation series, I'm probably gonna read the robot series, but I'm not sure who you mean by Dirk Gently. Now that's a cover even better than the other two that you showed us. Can't remember which one, but yeah, you're welcome. Love the blue contrasting the lit windows and the bright colors. Reminds me of the Fleischer Superman And Batman animated series. Yeah. Batman animated series has really good contrast. So beautiful. So beautiful. Yeah, thank you, man. Or woman, I don't know who you are. Midwit. And the symbol looks more mystical than scientific. Okay, this is such a quirk I have, but and I don't mind it. I'm gonna say this. I don't like it, but I also don't mind it. You know how like when you let's say you go to like a website like Canva. This is not a big deal, but this is kind of the notion that people have when you look at brain or neurochemistry. It's all these like electric blue and electric white and electric green lights, and the brain is outlined in electric blue, and then there's the like points in purple and red and orange and stuff like that. Yeah, it looks cool, but like there's nothing really structurally. Structurally the brain is beautiful, but as far as aesthetic, like if you actually see a human brain, it's not really that nice to behold. Structurally it's really cool, and I guess the people are, with the electric blue light, they're trying to show you it's a structural beauty. So I get that, but the physical beauty is not there. It's just lacking. But why I bring that up is people have this like weird aesthetic notion of what computational science looks like. You kind of see like the ones and zeros, like the conceptual art of ones and zeros. It's like, yeah, I guess. And but then yeah, you're right. It doesn't look scientific. It doesn't. It just well, it it those ugly book covers would be fine also for an analytical data book, like if we're being honest. So anyway. A title should always be capitalized. It's more noticeable when which is what you want in order to get more readers. It also depends on the font. You can work with a font that can have the uppercase and the lowercase letters pop out, but I would again, yeah, I would default it to uppercase. Like my album covers, besides one I'm gonna try to release a single track this August. I meant to do it this month, but it's just yeah, I've been working on other stuff too. So I'm gonna try to release a single track this August, and this will be the first album cover where I'm not using all caps. My sound engraver name will be all caps, but the title of the single track will actually be uppercase first letter and then lowercase for the rest of it. It just the font, I wanted a very specific font, and it looked better with just the capital letter as the first letter, and that's it. So it does depend on the font as well. Private Eye says, sounds like the book industry could benefit of the artist, could benefit the artists in the comic industry. The good ones, you mean? Yeah, exactly. Like people who know how to do art. Exactly. Yeah, yeah, like a art cover of a good classic comic book. Yeah, you're right. Final Fantasy fan says, okay, whenever you're an artist, there are times you be flamboyant. But if an artist make it crystal, but if you're an artist, make it crystal clear of what you're making. Keep it simple. Don't be stubborn. Don't be stupid. Yeah, like don't be nebulous. Don't be nebulous when it comes to visual art. Like, and that's actually where liberal arts students really suffer. They think like I suffered that even as a composer, like even as a composition student, I suffered with well, especially with my writing. Actually, to be honest, now that my writing is getting edited by a professional, it's like oh, I don't know where I meant what I meant with that, Like get very specific with your text. People think you should be nebulous because you don't want to spoon feed your audience. It's like you're not going to spoon feed your audience. Like yeah, there is a don't spoon feed your audience, but also make it clear what you want. Like don't ever think as a writer, for instance, don't ever think your reader is going to know or pick up what you know. I'm learning that the hard way, believe me. Yeah, that's one of the most valuable things I'm learning as a writer is that. So let's go ahead, and I do see Owen listeners checking out. Good night. Have a good sweet sleep. We'll see you later. You say it reminds me of Disney Marvel's Eternals. I don't even know what that looks like, and I don't want to know. Practice your craft the way you improve it. Yeah. Big titles that stand out are a preference of mine. Oh, well, I think they're a preference of a lot of people's. Like, if we're being, you do not want, you do not want tiny text for a title. Like maybe a tiny 2 sentence, like if you're for a magazine, if it's a 2 sentence description, like a magazine or a comic or something, yeah, have smaller text there. But for a title and for the author's name, no, you need it big. You need it loud, big and loud. That really is a shame. All the power in the world and what they produce is garbage, and they are proud of it. It's postmodernism. It's kind of funny, like in the academics, like you've got the tenured professors, so they're compared to me, they're living large. No, I work hard for my tenured position. I'm like, well, I work hard too. And I don't make any money for the hard work that I do. I mean, I have a job, but like the work I really put in, no, I'm not, I'm only making like a couple cents on the dollar every 2 months. That's building a business. That's what it's about. It's investment. But not so much the professors, but their students. Oh my gosh, their doctorates and their master, their graduate students. Man, there was like a pride. There was this pride, like they had completed a feat, like an endeavor of producing really bad art. Like for all the intellect they had and the instructions the professors give them and stuff like that. It's like, oh yeah, here it is. And I remember hearing, and this wasn't a student or a professor, this was a local composer. He was older too. Like I was in my early 20s and he must have been pushing 60 at the time, maybe 50. He just had an older personality and he had a head of gray hair, so I thought he was older. He had a very nice, cheerful disposition. He was a nice guy. But the program of his ensemble, his chamber piece, was the feeling of tripping. Not even the feeling of vertigo, the feeling of tripping. And this feeling of tripping was the theme. It was a thematic run into, like, gosh, I can't remember how long it was, but it was like 11 minutes too long. I think it was like 15 minutes. I think it was a long piece. It was between 10 and 15 minutes, and it really only needed to be 2 to 3 minutes. It's like, oh my gosh, please. Like I just need to be done. I need to use the restroom or something. And he had this pride, like, oh, this what great stuff I'm achieving. And it's like, no. We'll be polite and we'll clap, but that's all. But that was a man who didn't make any money composing. Like he probably had another job at Microsoft or something like that. But it's when people have the money to produce amazing work. Like I'm proud of the music I'm producing, but I do not have the equipment or software to produce the stuff I would really like to produce in the future. I just don't. I don't have the money. I will one day, but I focus on paying other expenses, like being a diligent American citizen, with debt and taxes, So I don't have the funds to go into a nice studio. So what do? I just use what I have and try to promote the best I can and make it sound good. Make it sound good. Yes, Weta did do amazing work. Awesome stuff. Midwit says there's a bunch of weird philosophical reasons for why these shows end up the way they do, but that's a rant on a different form. I mean, I've discussed that a number of times. It's a 100-year long philosophy that has it really started pretty much I would say right before World War I. This philosophical kind of defeatist mindset, like art is pointless, beauty is pointless, and then after the catastrophe that was World War I, but then getting into World War II, people, and there were reasons for World War II, but the thing is, like, people were just, after World War I think people were just left and right. Like, we don't want to produce anything beautiful because war is ugly, the world is ugly, everyone's evil. Not only that, I think there was, I'm not sure, this is just speculation, but I think people were scared to produce something of meaning and beauty because it was going to be obliterated in a war of some kind. That's not all the reaction, but I think people really, they didn't want to live through things being obliterated. Now, I think there were selfish things too. I think over time, especially into the 1950s and 60s, people had great disdain for what is normal, what is beautiful, what is structural, what is symmetrical, what is good prose, what is good form. There was a general disdain, and that was from the academics, but now we're seeing it with modern day Hollywood and stuff like that. Yeah, it's not in a vacuum, as they say. Yeah, exactly. You're right. Hegel with his thesis, antithesis, and synthesis, and all that. Yeah, I learned that without realizing what it was. Okay, so um, let's go ahead. Oh, you're an architect. Cool. I can assure you it's true. Look up. I don't know how to pronounce this name, but I know who you're talking about. Le Corbusier. Is that how you say? Man, he thought really mechanically before 1914. Afterwards, it's completely different. Interesting. Yeah, and also just as far as like, I love architecture. I love stairwells and things that are structural. I love beautiful, good architecture. And actually, even if it's structurally impossible or impragmatic, I love the look of science fiction cityscapes. I just love the look of structures and skyscrapers and stuff like that. Like, I'll go sometimes on, sci-fi concept art, and then I'll be like, yeah, that looks beautiful. It's so cool. It's so cool. Even if it might not be functional in the real world, but I'm like, that's so amazing. But yeah, I actually recently listened to a podcast where these British men were complaining about how ugly things were and how ugly buildings have become, and we see a little bit of that here in the United States, but there's so much rural expanse and landscape. We don't feel it. We don't feel the effects like people of the UK feel because we just have more space. Cities here are ugly. Not every city, but like I live next to a city that I just don't care for. I it reminded me of my hometown, Seattle. Like, besides the Space Needle, I'm like, this is not the nicest place. Now, I actually left the Northwest way before all the political shenanigans that happened with Portland and Seattle, but like, things are just uglified in cities. People of a certain artistic ideology, you know, a 100-year long artistic ideology. They're like, down with convention, down with structure, down with form. We're gonna be open minded, guys. We're gonna be open minded, and they end up uglifying these cities they live in. It's like, I thought you liked nature. Like, you all talk about loving nature. Why don't you follow through with that and have things in their natural order and their natural beauty? But no, they couldn't. They can't. They express loving nature so much, but then they hate things that are normal. Anyway, I probably should wrap it up here. Let's see. We've got, yeah, okay. Yeah, the white cubes. That's right. It's so dystopian. So dystopian. The work of Corbusier's, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, turned everything into white cubes with randomly placed windows. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, because apparently that's what buildings should be. Yeah. And I see that, isn't it in England, in the major cities, where like things are just superimposed on old structures, like a facade? And what is it? Is that a mockery of something? A house is a machine for living. Form follows function, and ornamentation is crime, are the core tenets of modernism. Now, here's the thing. Okay, unless I'm not knowing what that phrase means, I do go by form follows function, but not in the mechanical sense. not in the mechanical sense. So, like, I do believe art has a function, but it's of the higher order. It's of the higher tier of humanity. So, function, I don't use that word like a mechanical way or a blatant way. I do think function is important. But I also believe there's a spiritual tier to function as well. I didn't know that that was his phrase, form follows function. Ornamentation is not a crime, not at all. Not at all. That makes me mad. I mean, yeah, you can have too much, but you need some. Seriously. Again, like okay, I'm gonna go on just a quick little rant and then we'll wrap it up here. I want these artists and these postmodern artists. I want everyone. I don't believe in regulations, but if I was given the curse of regulating people, this is my curse. Every single person who follows the line that what was my line? What was my line of thinking? I just lost my train of thought. Okay. What was that? You're saying ornamentation is a crime. Oh, I lost my train of thought. I had such a good thought. It'll come back. I'm gonna let it come back. Let the rant flow. Yeah, if I remember what I was saying. Ornamentation is a crime. Every artist who follows the postmodern line of thinking for their art, my curse on them. I'm not evil, I promise. I wouldn't want them on this really. But if I was given a curse to put on humanity, this would be my curse. Every person with that line of thinking, that postmodern line of thinking, the way they view art would be their reality with food. So everything about their food would be bland, without flavor, without texture, without form, without purpose, without meaning, without enjoyment, without beauty, without a culinary artistic experience. I want their food to be like what they believe art should be. And that's my rant. All right, so let me wrap it up here. Thank you guys for watching and listening and all that. And for that, I'm gonna have to find the timestamp and warn people who will watch the replay when you guys couldn't hear me. But I'm glad I did talk about the Doldrums for Phantom Toll Booth. So anyway, what's on the dock for today or for this week rather? I'm gonna do a Logic Pro demo. So I'll go back into Logic Pro. I've had some requests saying, "Oh, I need a pitch bend, a huge range. How do you pitch down a huge range and up a huge range?" So I'm going to do a small tutorial on that. I think that's really important. I have this great video. I knew it was going to get a lot of views, and it's gotten a lot of views over the years. I think I posted that 2 years ago. And people ask me, "Hey, thank you for this, but I need help with this problem here." And I never found the problem. I never found the solution to the problem until a few days ago. So I'll be doing a short Logic Pro demo tutorial, and then I'll probably do a pre-recorded video sometime in the late weekend, maybe even Monday. But that's pretty much it for my channel. I'm really just going back to SuperCollider, going back to original music composition and all that good stuff. And then the prof has his book study for the Professor Geek channel and all that. And Big Al has his rambles and reviews and I can't remember. Rewatches. So I think that's it for today. I will see you guys next time. And until I see you next, keep producing, preserving, and promoting the good art you love. And I'll catch you later. Bye.